If you choose to buy a queen from a breeder, she's generally going to come in a little wooden box like this. You're going to see there's lots of bees that are very attracted to her. She's emitting a pheromone, and so they're going to continue to gather while we chat. Inside the box, you're going to find the queen. If you bought a marked queen, she'll come with the dot on her abdomen. This year is 2017, so the color for this year is yellow. You will also find 6 attendants. And one end of your queen cage is going to have just a cork, and the other end you're going to have a bit of fondant or candy and another cork. So when it comes time to install the queen, it's very important that you pop the cork on the candy end. And then what we like to do is take a small tool such as a nail or a small stick and poke a tiny hole through the candy. The reason we do that is just because it gives the bees a little bit of a head start. The whole purpose of this queen cage is that it allows the bees to be able to access the queen but not harm her. Because even if a hive is queenless and you put a queen in the hive, they will kill her even if they don't have one, if she's not their queen. So the purpose of this box is there's a screen on the front, and it allows the bees to access the queen and access her pheromone without injuring her. And so you're going to pop the cork on the candy end, poke a small hole, and then we're going to hang this cage between 2 frames in your hive. Candy side down. As the bees ball around her, they'll get to know her through her pheromones, and they'll become used to her and accept her as their own. Meanwhile, they're going to eat through the candy in the end of the queen cage down here, and they'll release her in about 3 days. So once you've got your cork popped, again on your candy end, what we're going to do is we're going to make a small hole through the candy. Now the only reason we do this is because it speeds up the process a bit by which the queen can be released. So you can take a nail or a small stick, works great. You want to poke very carefully, being sure to not injure your queen, of course. So as you can see, just a small hole there, and now we're ready to install. So here we have a nuke, which think of this as a small hive, and we're going to install the queen in the nuke. So what you want to do is you want to find 2 frames in your brood nest. Again, brood refers to anything that's not an adult bee. So find 2 frames full of eggs, pupae, or larvae. So all I've done is I've made space here. So now I know that these are 2 frames of brood. So I'm going to move them apart. And again, we're going to install our queen candy side down. So you're going to put her in between the 2 frames. Make sure to not push the screen side into the comb, because you want the bees to be able to access her. So we're going to put our frames on the either side of the queen cage, just as such. Okay, now that we've got our queen installed, we'll put our last frame back in the nuke. After we install our queen, it's important that we ensure that she's actually laying and she was a viable queen. So come out 4 to 5 days later, and you want to look for 2 things. 1, make sure she's been released from her queen cage. If she's not, release her just by popping the other end of the cork opposite from the candy. And then 2, you want to look to make sure that there are eggs in the comb. If you see eggs, that you know that your queen is laying and your hive is off to a new start.